The White House and the Pentagon have denied a Washington Post report that claimed that Hegseth gave an order to, quote, kill everybody. And tonight, Hegseth and the White House are shifting responsibility to Admiral Mitch Bradley. He's the commander of U.S. Special Operations.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. And so it begins. Many of us have been predicting this, the Trump administration, Pete Hegseth in particular, scapegoating anyone they can to avoid accountability for what was clearly an unlawful action, possibly even murder. It appears they have decided to pin the blame for this double tap strike on the admiral overseeing the operation. Now, this is not to absolve that individual of their responsibility. Military personnel have an obligation to refuse illegal orders, but we cannot let Hegseth and the Trump regime off the hook. Here was Pete Hegseth back in September recounting almost gleefully that he watched the entire engagement, presumably including that second strike on survivors clinging to wreckage, as it unfolded.
That was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing.
The evidence is mounting, as are the lies, and you can just sense the panic setting in. I'm not as optimistic as some that there will, at long last, be accountability for this regime. But Kris Goldsmith is bullish on this. I asked him to share his thoughts on the administration's attempt to shift blame, and Kris seems pretty confident that eventually Hegseth is going to not only take the fall here, but wind up in prison. Here's our conversation. Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. We've got Kris Goldsmith back, the founder of Veterans Fighting Fascism and host of the Valor Media podcast on offense. A serious topic for today, Kris. We've been hammering it on this show, the illegal attacks, the double tap in particular on the speedboat on September 2nd in the Caribbean that, and I'm quoting the report, blew apart 2 shipwrecked survivors, which is clearly a violation of the laws of war if we're in fact in a war. Or outright murder if what we're doing in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific doesn't constitute a war. But either way, beyond the pale. And now it seems the administration is trying to pin the blame on the combatant commander, Admiral Mitch Bradley, who relayed the order, I'm going to say the order from Secretary of Defense Hegseth to kill them all.
Yeah, I want to start out by saying that I do not accept the Trump administration's premise that we are a country at war. That is what they are using to justify these strikes in the first place. But we're not at war. These ships cannot physically make it to American shores. They are not laden with weapons or with explosives. They have no offensive capabilities that we've seen evidence of at all. So they are firing on unarmed ships from afar with weapons that are typically designed for real threats to our forces, to our country. And they're using that premise that we are at war with drug cartels or whatever, to justify the first strike in the first place. But as you and I probably learned on, I don't know, our first day in uniform, we in the military, when we're in the military, we're bound by law. Like this, the stuff you see in movies, the John Wayne shit, is not reality. When you are in uniform, you are subject to federal law. If you're in the United States, you're subject to state law. You're subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And when we have treaties, international treaties, when you're in international waters, you're bound by international law as well. I have not seen any legal expert of any amount of credibility come forward and say that a double tap in sinking or blowing up men who are dazed and confused, hanging on to wreckage, that is ever appropriate. The normal way to do drug enforcement interactions is if the Navy needs to be involved, is to send the Coast Guard to go get these ships. If the ships are armed, they can engage. If there's a clear threat to the American forces, they can engage. But otherwise, this is a law enforcement action. That's what this is supposed to be. And if the Trump administration is so willing to violate, again, federal, international law, UCMJ overseas, I don't think that we're very many steps from Donald Trump issuing orders like he tried to in his first term of, why don't we shoot the protesters in the legs? It's the same logic that they're using. If you can take a law enforcement action and that justifies war-like kinetic activities, meaning lethal violence, they're going to do it here. It's just a matter of time.
I think what should alarm all of us is the legal regime under which they are operating, designating these organizations as narco-terrorists, which has given them the authority, at least in their minds, to use the military to take them out, to execute them, to kill them without any due process, without even apparently notifying Congress. Because we have to remember, at the same time, they're designating, in a way, us as terrorists. They've declared anti-fascism, Antifa, to be a domestic terrorist organization. I wish I had worn my shirt. You did wear yours, but I mean, we're on that slippery slope already. They are justifying these kinetic strikes in lieu of law enforcement by saying that they're going after terrorists while they're calling Americans in a different context, but on that same slippery slope, terrorists as well.
Yeah. I don't doubt that we are seeing the beginning of things getting worse in terms of the use of force. The response to the murder of one National Guardsman and another National Guardsman being critically injured, from Secretary Noam of Department of Homeland Security, is to advise the president to basically, putting their phrases together, ban people from shithole countries, right? To make it so that anybody who's got a pigment darker than mine cannot make it through our borders. They are taking any opportunity that they can to advance their ideology, but none of this is theoretical anymore. We're not talking about, Project 2025 and all these kind of like amorphous ideas that I think most Americans had a hard time conceptualizing when we were talking about it over a year ago.
Last minute shopping during the holidays is the worst. You're running out of ideas, the stores are packed, and forget about finding parking. Aura Frames is the best last minute solution, a gift that actually feels thoughtful and personal. I'm one of those people who struggles with ideas for what to get my wife and family. I want something meaningful, something that doesn't feel rushed, and honestly, that pressure usually makes me procrastinate. Aura Frames, in my opinion, is the single best gift for that. Here's why. Aura Frames lets you share photos or videos from any device, and they instantly appear on the frame, wherever it is in the world, at your home, your office, or someone's home across the country or across the world. The frames are gorgeous. They display photos in true color, and they automatically adjust to the light in the room. When you turn out the lights at night, the frame turns off too, saving energy and letting you sleep. And the setup, about 2 minutes. Download the Aura app, connect to Wi-Fi, and you're done. Preload your photos before it ships. Add a message before your gift arrives. Keep adding new photos and videos anytime from anywhere. Every frame comes in a premium gift box with no price tag, truly ready to wrap and give. You can't wrap togetherness, but you can frame it. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code KEN at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code KEN. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Hey everyone, quick break to tee up a trailer for a new show that I have been dying to tell you about. Kris Goldsmith, audience favorite here, is launching his own podcast. Enjoy.
This is On Offense, and I'm Kris Goldsmith, combat vet, anti-fascist investigator, and founder of Task Force Butler and Veterans Fighting Fascism. I've spent years infiltrating extremist movements, exposing fascist street gangs, and organizing other veterans to stand up for democracy. And now, we're living in a reality where those same far-right maniacs are getting embedded throughout our federal government. That's why I'm bringing my work here. Raw, direct, unfiltered. Every week on Offense, I'll break down what's happening behind the closed doors of hate groups, how extremist groups are getting closer to real political power, and what it's going to take to stop the next wave of political violence. You'll hear from organizers on the front lines and from veterans who know what real service to country looks like. On Offense is for anyone who's ready to fight for democracy. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to watch our videos, make sure you're following Valor Media Network on YouTube. America's in a fight for its future. Let's go on offense. Now we're getting into the point where people are being disappeared. There are people who went to Alligator Alcatraz who there are no records of where they are currently. We have seen Secretary Noem briefed by her lawyers, and they've put this in legal filings. This is the Trump administration admitting this in court filings, that Secretary Noem has been advised that things like the judge's order to turn around the flight that they were sending overseas was illegal, and she pressed forward anyway. They are in open defiance of the laws that they and of court orders. If the administration doesn't respect court orders, if the administration doesn't respect the Congress, and its ability to authorize the use of military force or declare war, we're in a uniparty state now. We're in a regime that has consolidated all federal power. I have been, and my first interview on my new podcast on the Valor Media Network on Offense is with Tad Sturmer. He is one of a handful of personal friends that I have seen move overseas, who are experts in fascism and authoritarianism, and they see the writing on the wall. That doesn't mean that we should give up, right? It just means that we need to fight harder, do everything that we can within the bounds of the law to resist. And as hopeless as anybody who listens to me talk may feel, the reason why I'm here is because I believe we can still fight. I believe we can still win. I believe that the American people still have a conscience. I believe that we share a common set of values. And now I understand the idea, the thinking that goes behind branding these cartels as narco terrorists, because 20 years ago, that is like an idea that I had. I had just fought in Iraq, or this time I was about to come home from my year-long deployment to Iraq. And I spent a lot of time over there thinking, like, wow, if they really cared, the government and the American people really cared about American safety, why aren't they engaging the narco, the cartels who are coming across our border, who are engaging in human trafficking and murder and killings in Mexico? If we care about freedom and democracy, why aren't we going into Mexico? I really believed that was a good idea back then, because I was a high school student who went to war, and that was the limit of my education. Right. And now we have a country that is being run by people who are using the logic of a high school student who knows nothing but war.
Yeah.
And that is not safe for anybody.
I want to get your reaction to this recent post by Pete Hegseth on social media. I'm just going to read this middle paragraph. Admiral Mitch Bradley is an American hero, a true professional, and has my 100% support. I stand by him and the combat decisions he has made on the September 2nd mission and all others since. Read between the lines for us.
That's called a fall guy right there. There is no reason that the Secretary of Defense or the White House, for that matter, because Carolyn Leavitt has done it too, would be naming this commander by name unless they wanted the American people to know this commander's name. They are only using this commander's name so that they can shift focus onto him, because Pete Hegseth is famous. Pete Hegseth has been getting all the headlines. So whether it's members of Congress or talking heads like us on the internet or television, we've all been talking about Pete Hegseth. They desperately want us to know another name, because they don't want to lose their drunken Fox News host who's running the Secretary who's running the Department of Defense and calling it the Department of War. They are doing everything that they can to prevent Donald Trump from having to push Hegseth out. But I don't think that that's going to work. And one of the reasons that I don't think that's going to work is because we're still only talking about one strike. The American people, Congress, the broader media ecosystem, while we have been talking about strikes, we haven't been talking about them specifically. We haven't been naming the dates. We haven't been naming the ships. We haven't been naming the commanders involved. That level of detail didn't happen until the Washington Post came out with their exclusive about Hegseth's illegal orders last Friday. We are soon going to be talking about a lot more strikes with that level of specificity. And I know that because whistleblowers have been coming forward to people like me so that I can put them in touch with congressional investigators. So I can promise you, I don't want to put anyone in danger, so I'm not going to give any details, but I can promise you that this strike is not the only ugly one. This strike is not the only one where Pete Hegseth himself has given illegal orders. And I am convinced that Pete Hegseth is going to jail. Unless Donald Trump says, I pardon Pete Hegseth for all federal crimes he may have committed ever in his life, I am certain that Pete Hegseth is going to jail. And even if he does get that kind of crazy blanket pardon, Democrats better be ready to fucking impeach this guy, because the evidence is coming out and we cannot accept this as the new normal. These secretaries can be impeached. I know that Democrats probably feel gun shy after 2 failed convictions after impeachment of Donald Trump, but Pete Hegseth is not Donald Trump. He may be media savvy. He may be snippy in front of a microphone, but he's already put enough evidence on Twitter for a jury, for senators to be concerned. And that is ultimately the jury that he would have to face, the Senate, if he is impeached. And I believe that if Rand Paul is out here, talking about how Pete Hegseth's a war criminal, I don't think Pete Hegseth would make it through in impeachment the way that Donald Trump did.
Well, I can think of at least 6 Democrats who are ready to go there. The ones who appeared in that video and were lambasted for it and even threatened with hanging by the president. I'm going to walk you out, Kris, with this video that you participated in of us coming to their defense before all of this news broke of these illegal orders in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. I don't know. Well, I do have an inkling. I'm not gonna give away too much here, but that original video was incredibly well timed, and it provoked exactly the kind of reaction we wanted the American people to see, so that they can see Donald Trump and his regime for what it is. Thanks, Kris, as always.
Yeah, and all the Republicans who came after us for our video, I bet you they're feeling pretty fucking stupid right now.
Here's the video. I'm Ken Harbaugh. I served as a U.S. Navy pilot.
My name is Bobby Jones, Commander, United States Navy, retired.
Mike Smith, retired U.S. Naval Aviator.
Christopher Goldsmith, Sergeant, United States Army.
My name is Curtis Register. I was a Major, United States Marine Corps, served 2011, 2021.
My name is Corey Hargraves. I was a Staff Sergeant in the United States Army.
Melissa Corrigan, Petty Officer, 2nd Class, United States Navy.
My name is Frederick Pogue. I was a corporal in the United States Marine Corps Reserves from 1995 to 2001.
I want to talk about Senator Mark Kelly for a minute.
A former Navy pilot, a combat vet, an astronaut, a husband, and a patriot.
A man who honored his oath to his country.
Right now, our government is threatening to court-martial him.
For a video that reminded service members to uphold their oaths to the country and Constitution and to resist obeying unlawful orders.
This is a targeted attack from the executive branch and from the Department of Defense against a fellow veteran and an honorable American.
They are trying to influence our military to serve the president, not the Constitution and not the American people.
America's military is strong because it's a professional, all-volunteer force and because it's apolitical and nonpartisan. Undermining that tears at the very fabric of our democracy. We can never allow for that to happen.
We must call this attack on Senator Kelly for exactly what it is.
An assault on the military's integrity and an attempt to push a wedge between our service members and the citizens they protect.
To every service member,
continue
honorably
serving.
Continue defending
your country.
You and we all took an oath.
Not to serve a king or a tyrant,
but to defend the Constitution.
Don't give up the ship.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.